Hey everyone, it's Miss Queen Crypto, and I am back again for another episode on the Embily channel of Friday Block Talk. I'm very happy to see you here again. I really appreciate the support. I do have some sad news, however, or a little sad. It's not really that big of a deal, but this will be my last video in this space. I'm moving out of my dorm tomorrow actually, and then my videos for the rest of the summer are going to be at home. And then I'll move back into my new dorm, which won't be this location. So we've got some fun little switch ups happening. Keep it fun and fresh and exciting and all of that. But today I wanted to talk about the implications of Bitcoin becoming legal tender in wake of the Panama news and why it's a good thing, the pros and the cons that it poses to the country itself, and the implications it has for the rest of the world, because it's not legal tender in most countries. So with that, let's get into it. So first, I think it's a good idea to discuss why a country would be motivated to adopt a cryptocurrency as legal tender, because as powerful as crypto Twitter is and crypto influencers are, the sole desire of the citizens is not the only reason that this is happening. There are benefits besides people just wanting it to happen that the country has to take into consideration. And one of the bigger ones being obviously the decentralization of banks. So it is a lot more accessible for individuals to run a node themselves than to start a bank, first of all. Like, those are just two completely different things. But in a lot of countries that are considering it, in a country like El Salvador, banks are not an extremely accessible entity. There are a lot of people who are like underbanked or do not have access to a bank, and so therefore are not able to build wealth and deposit their money. And so having a system in place where they can use Bitcoin, all they need is a computer, a stable internet connection, not even stable, you just need to have access to an internet source at some point, and power, and you are able to acquire a wallet, you're able to send money back and forth, and you're basically cutting out the bank, which is something that I don't have my HODL mug, but it's the whole be your own bank type of deal. You don't need the bank to be part of the process. And so for countries such as El Salvador and now Panama, that is something that's very advantageous and something that will bring a lot of good to the country and be really impactful to the people themselves. It offers them something that they've been missing with their current economic system. Another reason a country might look to Bitcoin to add as a form of legal tender could be to deal with hyperinflation that they're dealing with their own currency in their economy. So I've been hearing stories on the news for years about the hyperinflation that's occurring in South America and how much of a problem that has been for their economies, and especially for the citizens in those countries, and how much pain and suffering they're going through because of it. And it's really not their fault, but just the devaluation of the currency has been having catastrophic impacts. And obviously, I'm sure a lot of the rhetoric that's being shown off to us is maybe not closest to the truth. However, I do see hyperinflation being an issue. And so when you're adding Bitcoin as an option, you are giving the citizens a way out, essentially. You're giving them an option that is not going to be deflating in appreciation. It's not going to be inflating itself. It's not going to be going down over time. Instead, quite the opposite. Your money is going to gain value over time, and you're going to actually have a stable way to build wealth and secure a future for yourself and your children and your family, which is something we all want, especially when we're talking about finances and why we're into Bitcoin for a lot of us. So that's one reason. It's looking out for the betterment of the citizens, which maybe is not the first priority of governments, sadly, but definitely something that can be taken into consideration when we're having this discussion of why Bitcoin is such a suitable option for this, and it's the deflationary nature of the asset. So what does this mean if you are a citizen of one of these countries that now has Bitcoin as legal tender? Are you going to be forced to use Bitcoin in transactions is your normal currency that you've been using all your life going to simply go away? No, it's just another option. So if you chose to use Bitcoin to pay your taxes, that would be an option available to you. However, it's interesting because now companies, like if you were to go to a local coffee shop and a year ago they did not have any Bitcoin availability, like that was not an option for payment. If they have the technology available to them, they are now by law required to accept Bitcoin. I think that caveat is there for places that are cash only or just simply do not have the monetary availability, or that would be too much of a financial burden, similar to like the ADA here. If it's going to impose a financial burden on the business, they don't necessarily have to comply. However, if you can, you will. So Bitcoin being legal tender means it's now an option for all companies to accept as payment. The government can accept it as payment. A big one is there is now no capital gains tax on Bitcoin. So when you purchase Bitcoin, it's like if you were trying to transfer like euros to pesos. There are still conversion taxes, but you're not going to be taxed capital gains for holding on or like trading those assets. It's a slight difference there, but it definitely is. The reference currency is still the same. Like the country's national fiat currency is still what prices are going to be based in, and the main like conversion of money, like the main medium of exchange. However, Bitcoin is an option, like I've been saying, which is interesting. And the way that happens is just when you check the price on a chart and you see the conversion rate, that's what happens anytime you were to use it. The price of the good in Bitcoin is calculated at the moment of your purchase. So similar to the Embily card. Ha ha ha. While we're having this conversation, I do think it's important to be honest and discuss some of the drawbacks of adopting Bitcoin as a legal form of legal tender, because if all we're focusing on are the positives, we are spinning a narrative that's not entirely true. And so it is important to remember that while Bitcoin is a deflationary asset, which I say all the time, and according to like the math and long term, the value will go up. However, in the short term, it is volatile. At the time I'm recording this, Bitcoin is at 38,000, but in a couple of days it could be at 42, and that might not be a huge difference for me when I'm only dollar cost averaging, not really taking money out. I'm not focusing my Bitcoin on paying bills or rent or affording groceries. But for someone who, if they're adopting Bitcoin as legal tender, that difference, that like 4K difference, if it were to drop from 42 to 38, could mean that they aren't able to make rent. And obviously that's something that you have to take into account. It's still a risk-based system. It's still an investment. You aren't guaranteed a return on investment, and I've said that a lot, but you do have to recognize how that volatility could negatively impact people who are part of the system and who are citizens where Bitcoin is legal tender. And so while in theory everything sounds really, really positive and like there's only good coming from it, we do have to recognize some of the drawbacks and why people have hesitations about this. Hesitations, though, I'm sure will go down over time as we witness the hopeful success of these early innovative systems, and hopefully plenty of more countries follow in the wake. But that's something that we'll only be able to tell with the test of time. I can't answer those questions now, nor can anyone else. As we know, the upsides of these systems are extremely positive, however, and personally, I do not think that the downsides or the potential negatives outweigh the positive impact that this decision is going to have on these countries, and obviously the leaders of these countries agree, otherwise they wouldn't have put that in place. But I do think that we have to recognize both sides and understand why there might be hesitations from other people. But with that, that's, I think, where I'm going to end the video off on. It's a very hectic time for me. Again, apologies that it's just been a hectic couple of weeks, but can't really do anything about that. I really appreciate you coming in, being tuned in, and watching the video. I really do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the Embily channel. And if you want to see more content from me, which should be happening on a more regular basis coming up, follow me on Twitter at Miss Queen Crypto. Bye for now. Thank you so much for watching.